Today's guest has worn just about every hat in soccer: player, analyst, student manager, executive assistant, executive, and now vice president of U.S. Soccer. He captained Harvard's Division I program, helped turn Gotham FC into NWSL champions, co-founded Blue Bonnet Data to mobilize young technologists for civic causes, and traveled to every U.S. state to meet the voices of American soccer face to face in service of his vice presidential campaign. But what stands out most isn't just that impressive resume, it's how he's built change through details he could control, listening when others overlooked, using data when others relied on intuition, and putting people first when it would have been easier to chase results. Welcome, Nathán, to the Walk On Way.
Thank you. I'm really, really excited to be here.
Yeah, no, it's been a long time coming. Like we said, we've been in touch for a little while. Maybe what's it been, like a year and a half? Because we met at the
It might have been
like
no, not
or
quite.
maybe a
It was
year.
less than it. It's been less than a year.
Less than a
But
year.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But
Um,
coming up on it.
it was at the I forget what it stands for, HUSL
Yeah, Harvard undergrad sports something.
lab or something.
Yeah.
They did a great job though, and you did a great job speaking there.
Thank you.
It was that with Ryan Fitzpatrick, quarterback.
Yeah, we were not on the same panel. I'm not a big timer like that yet. But, yeah.
But yeah, that's how we met, and I heard about your story, your walk-on story at Harvard, and then obviously all the other things that we just mentioned. But before we dive into some of that stuff, typically with my guests, I just like to talk a little bit about, childhood, formative moments.
Yeah.
I don't have any specific question, but are there any formative moments or just general things about your childhood that you're
Yeah.
willing to share, where you come from? And
Yeah. Well, I was born and raised in Mexico City. And it's a soccer crazy country down there. So you'd think that I was born just loving soccer. Um, but really, when I was still very young in kindergarten, I didn't like soccer quite as much as my friends who played it every day during recess. And so for me to still hang out with them and spend time with them during recess, what my mom did is she made me little yellow and red cards so that I could still participate without actually playing soccer. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, it was a 4-year-old Nathan running around in kindergarten in the middle of all the other kids playing soccer, and just with my little yellow and red cards as a tiny referee. It was really the 2002 World Cup where I saw how much power soccer has to make the world stop and look at the same thing and feel connected, from Mexico to Korea and Japan, which is where it was taking place. That really made soccer the captivating force that it is, for me today and has been since then. So I played soccer growing up. I had the great fortune to find a program in Austin, Texas, that had a really strong school program, middle school, high school, and a boarding school soccer academy set up where I could go invest in my academics and also play soccer at a high level, at a serious competitive level. So I moved to Austin for 1 year of middle school and all of high school, and just loved it. And having had soccer open the door for me to build my academic career and then my professional career in America is something that I really, really treasure, which means that I want other people to have the same opportunities that I've had through soccer, which then has informed my desire to serve in the soccer ecosystem to expand soccer access and make sure that the magic of soccer touches every corner of the U.S. Yeah, and then I know we'll get into this, but my time playing soccer at Harvard was really, really formative in how I think about approaching problems and how I think about um, free will and being able to accomplish goals that seem very hard and very distant. But all of these things are things that I've learned through soccer around teamwork and working hard and standing back up when you get knocked down are the same things that I feel have contributed to my success off the field as well.
amazing, amazing. I just want to rewind a little bit. You
Yeah.
mentioned the 2002 World Cup,
Yeah.
the Korea Japan. Was there a moment in particular where you kind of felt your passion ignited?
Yeah. So Everyone on my mom's side of the family are K through 12 educators, or have been K through 12 educators. So again, really big focus on education. But when my grandparents ran a school in Mexico, the school that I went to for kindergarten, um, we delayed the start of classes whenever Mexico was playing, because the time difference meant that the games in Korea and Japan were being shown at 6 a.m., 8 a.m.
Wow.
in Mexico. And one, as a kid, it was really cool to be like, well, I get to show up to school late because I'm watching soccer in the morning. But even thinking bigger picture than that, about how this game that is happening halfway across the world has the power to just bring everyone, in Mexico in this case, together around a common cause, a common goal, to the point where things that are as important as school are put on pause so that everyone can have the chance to see this. I think that's what really made it click for me. Not just that it's a really fun game to play and watch, but that it is a really powerful catalyst for social impact as well. And that those are the two parts of soccer that I really love together.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, I mean, I was at that time I was 2. So that was not my first World Cup.
Yeah.
But yeah, the it is amazing how like the stories you hear about soccer making that big of a change, like, or just sports,
Yeah.
really. But delaying school for that is incredible.
Yeah.
Um, in just a second ago, you talked about Harvard and how important that was for your development. So I'd love to jump there. Um, so I don't want to tell the story for you,
Mm-hmm.
but my understanding is you were able to show up to one of the Harvard summer camps, and you were told no, but it seemed like you were able to find a way. So I was curious if you could tell that story.
Yeah, well, so that story actually starts with my high school club soccer
Okay.
situation. So I moved to Austin to play soccer at the St. Stephen's Episcopal School Academy, where I was a boarding student. It was half day, half boarding, or maybe 2/3 day, 1/3 boarding. But all my best friends were the people who lived in the dorm with me, who played on the St. Stephen's Academy with me. We were in the same classes. We, had dinner at the dining hall together every day. So we basically did everything together, except for the fact that for our club soccer situation with Lone Star Soccer Club in Austin, they all played for the top team in the U.S. Soccer Development Academy. And I did not play on the top team. I played on the team below that. And so we would do everything together from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., including training with St. Stephen's Academy. And then at that point, I had to go off campus to train with my team, where they would stay on campus on the same fields to train with the top team. And I didn't like that. I did not enjoy that. To be fair, they were all better soccer players than me, and that's why they were on the top team and I wasn't. But beyond the fact that I would have preferred to spend more time with my friends, I just knew that if I could play with them at the St. Stephen's Academy and hang, that I could also hang
Right.
at the Development Academy level in club soccer. And so for 2.5 years, what I would do is I would triple train. I would train with the St. Stephen's Academy, then I would drive off campus. So I would like 4 to 6. I would drive off campus to train with my Lone Star team, 6 to 8, and then I would drive back to campus anyway because that's where I was living, and that's where the top team was training 8 to 10. And so I would show up and then train 8 to 10 with the top team, and I was like good enough to be in training, but I was not the top player by any means. And so the coach would keep me around, but whenever it came time to
How did you get
register,
into training with them?
well, so the head coach of the Development Academy team for Lone Star was also our head coach at St. Stephen's.
So it was the same system. What was it like?
It was
ECNL or something, right?
before boys ECNL existed. U.S. Soccer had the Development
Got
Academy,
it.
which was the top level for boys and then also for girls. Um, so that was just the nationally recognized
Got it.
top youth competitive level. Um, and so the coach would coach me for the St. Stephen's Academy, so he knew me, and then that's how I was able to say, "Hey, I'm going to show up to training." So he was like, "Sure, whatever." Um, but whenever it came time to do registration, he was like, "Listen, I have 22 players that are better than you, so you're going to stay on your B team, and you're welcome to come to training, but you're not on our roster. You're not on
Yeah.
the squad. So this went on for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Until my senior spring, high school senior spring, where some of the players on the top team, so my best friends left to go to Kansas City, Sporting Kansas City Academy. So there were some spots open, but even that did not earn me a spot on the top Lone Star Development Academy team. Then there had to be a couple injuries on top of that as well for the coach to be like, well, like you've been here long enough, like you already know the system, and I literally don't have any other players. So I went from 2.5 years of just showing up to get one chance to there were so many injuries and we were down so many players that I ended the season as the starting center midfielder, which wasn't even
Wow.
my preferred position.
Yeah.
We were just that low.
And usually when you jump a level, you're going to right back or left
Yeah,
back. You're not going
that's
to.
I play outside back. That was my main position. And the coach was like, "Yeah, Nathan, you know what? Yeah, you're starting center
Yeah.
mid. You can enjoy it." So that was a real inflection point in my young mind as far as how you can make things happen if you just keep at it
Yeah.
for long enough. And we weren't even that good. Like we were the worst or second worst team in our division within the development academy. We had Colorado Rapids, FC Dallas, Houston Dynamo, Sporting Kansas City, and then
And
some
you guys are
other
independent.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's harder.
and some other independent clubs. We were duking it out with the San Antonio team to not be the last place team, and so the day that it really all came together was we were hosting FC Dallas, who we were the worst team in our division, and they were the best team in the country. And so we were expecting that we'd
What
get.
year was this?
This was 2014, like
Ooh.
March, April.
Oh, Dallas
2014.
at that time.
Yeah. They had like a bunch of kids that went pro.
Yeah, that around that. Yeah, they had a
Yeah.
crazy.
Who
Good.
did not start against us because they thought it was going to be an easy game. And so we went into it. The goal was to not get absolutely demolished. And then going into halftime, we were up 2-0 because I scored the opener from a like outside of the box, hitting up the underside of the bar to go in. And I still remember Coach Bobby sitting us down and with a straight face at halftime saying, just like we planned it, and everyone bursting out laughing. But then we ended up we won that game 3-1, and it was like back in the high school and college soccer days, Top Drawer Soccer would cover some of this stuff, and my name came up on Top Drawer Soccer and the upset of the week in youth soccer, and it really kind of as a single moment encapsulated how much I had worked to get a chance and then to have one moment where we beat the best team in the country, even though we weren't supposed to.
Because what were was Weston McKinney on that team?
I I don't think so. I mean, we can go back and
because
fact check it. They did once they were down 2-0 at halftime. Then they put on a bunch of their starters, and it was not enough. But that moment of saying like, okay, I worked my tail off for 2.5 years with no promises that this was ever going to work out. I was just doing it because I believed in myself and because the act of working hard was making me a better soccer player and a better person, and it felt good to push myself for the sake of it, even if it wasn't going to pan out. Um, but it did pan out in a way, and it was very, very rewarding.
Did you always have that, or was that like your first big like test of like self belief?
I've always been one to kind of like push the bounds and fight for what I believe in. I would do it in the classroom. Would be the equivalent. I was the first person at St. Stephen's to take biology and chemistry and physics as a freshman.
Oh wow!
And it was something they told me that I could not do. The head of school was like, "You absolutely cannot do." They already had given me a special exemption to do biology, which is what the freshmen were taking, and chemistry, which is what the sophomores were supposed to take. Because I said, "Hey, listen, like the schooling system in Mexico is not perfectly aligned with the U.S. So I already took a year of biology, So I'm not asking to skip biology. I'm just saying I don't want to just redo that.
Right.
I will do this because it's required, but let me take chemistry on top of it. And so that was a whole process that required very special dispensation. And then when they said, okay, we are giving you permission to do this, like we have not done this in years, I said, great. Now can I take physics? And they were like, no chance. I said, okay, no problem. I'm just gonna start showing up to the physics class. Um, and so I just showed up in one of my free periods to a physics class, and chatted with the teacher. The teacher said, "Yeah, no problem. Like as long as you're not causing a client, as long as you're not suffering in
Why did
your
you want to
grade."
take physics too?
Because I knew I could. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I knew that I was capable of doing it. So when I was with the juniors in the physics class, and I was getting my grades didn't count for anything, but I was taking the test. I was getting really good grades on the test. Um, and again, the dean of the school said, "Okay, if the teacher is okay with it, I'm okay with it, but don't even think about coming at the end of the year and asking us for credit like you were just auditing it
Hmm.
and I said, okay, yeah, no problem. And of course, at the end of the
Yeah.
year, I came with all my tests. I
Back
said,
at
hey, I got like
yeah.
A's on all my tests. Like, you're gonna make me take this again? Um, then they said, okay, well, the system literally will not allow us to input 7 credits. Like, it's just not possible. The maximum anyone can take is 6 or 6 classes. So what we can do is you can take uh, UT online physics course over the summer, and then we'll like transfer that credit into your transcript.
Okay.
So then you can head into like the advanced science classes as a sophomore. Um, so I've always been one
So you
to
had to
just
take it
like
twice,
kind of
or you already knew? So did you just have
yeah,
to do the
yeah,
test?
yeah, and like over this, I took it over the summer, so it wasn't impacting
Yeah.
my school schedule for the following year. But I saw those things as very similar of saying like, listen, I know that I can do this, and I'm just gonna do it.
Hmm.
And whenever someone says, hey, like you're not good enough to make the team, or listen, you can do that, but we're not gonna count the credit, I was just like, well, I'm gonna do it, and then I'll worry about it later. Um, so yeah, but I think maybe that moment again, FC Dallas is probably still my top athletic achievement. It really kind of wrapped up a lot of the work that I put into a tangible, concrete micro. So that when I scored the goal and the ball went in, I was like, man, that it was all worth it
Yeah.
just for that. So yeah, and then this will be a theme, I think, over the rest of the
Yeah.
conversation. So yeah, so okay, so you asked about
Harvard.
Harvard. So
Yep.
so then at that point, I had already gotten into Harvard. I had already made up my mind that I was going there.
Any contact with the coaches?
No, not until
Any attempted contact?
I made the Development Academy team. So it was
Oh.
like I got in December, early action, and then in February I finally got the call up to the Development Academy team. I had chosen that I was going to do my college recruitment or lack of college recruitment in a way where I was just going to choose what schools I wanted to go to and worry about soccer second. But once I got in and then I made the Development Academy team, then I was able to email the coaches and say, hey, listen, like I already got in. I know that we haven't spoken and this isn't, I'm not getting recruited, but I'm already going. So, and I play at the same level as everyone else who's getting recruited. Is there a conversation about joining the team? And they said, well, our recruiting class is pretty full. This was actually the first recruiting class for a new coaching staff. And so they'd been given like extra spots to try to start remaking the team. So I said, listen, our recruiting class is jam packed, but if you're good, we're not going to turn you down. The way to do it is you show up at one of our summer camps for prospective recruits for
Hmm.
future years, and we watch you play. And then when we see what we see, then we make a decision there. I said, okay. Um, so I came to campus early to attend one of these summer camps, and I just showed up like I was. Well, I mean, I was kind of in the middle where I was already planning on attending, and I was going to be a classmate of some of my future teammates and classmates who were already there. But I was also there with the campers who are the freshmen and sophomores and even juniors in high school who are still trying to get recruited for Harvard or for other universities. Um, and honestly, I mean, I did well enough, but I don't think it was a super strong competitive pool necessarily. And so the coach said, listen, like, you're okay, but if you would put you on the roster, you'd be the 30th person on the roster. We're not going to go through the trouble of bringing someone in who's not going to make an
Right.
impact from day one. If we saw you and we thought, oh, this guy's going to start every game, no problem. But if you're going to be the 30th person on the roster, then like it's not worth the trouble for us if you're not going to make an impact. And I said, I'll make an impact. Fucking, I'll pick up the bibs and I'll pick up the
Was
cone.
this right in that same conversation, or you kind of left, thought about it, and then came back with that?
The way I remember it was like pretty immediate, and you know, I was in a line of like 12 kids who all wanted to say something
Oh,
to the
right after
coach.
the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So I said, listen, I'll make an impact. Like, give me just hold on for a second. Um, and yeah, I mean, I said like I'll do anything. Like I want to contribute to the team, and if that is the bar, I can find a way to do it. I know I've done it before in my at that point not super long career, but when I was at Lone Star, I would make sure that since I wasn't the best player, then I had to be on my best behavior about being the person to always give 110%,
Mm-hmm.
to eat right, train harder, like be the fittest person. Um, and I said, I can bring that here, like whatever it takes to make an impact, I will do that if that is going to be my way onto the soccer team. And what really got the coach's attention was that I said that I would be able to help them start to flesh out the use of data analytics in their coaching decision making process. So they were really intrigued by that, and I said, okay, like if you're going to come in and do that, then sure, like you can come be a practice player, like a team manager,
Mm-hmm.
kind of on a trial basis. And as a team manager, then you're in charge of pumping up the
Did
balls.
you expect them to throw in the practice player thing as well? Is that something you offered up?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was there. I was there to play,
Right.
and so I said I will do all the responsibilities of a player, and on top of that, I will do all the
Yeah.
responsibilities of a manager. Whatever that looks like. And there are other people who had been managers and had signed up to be managers. One of them who was a year older, who kind of helped show me the way to in my incoming class. So there was a team of managers who were also, practice players, and we would be like the last ones in or the first ones out of a
Mm-hmm.
drill. Like if we needed fewer numbers, then we would be the ones to step out. If we needed to do this, happened more often than I would have liked. Permanent defense. That was me. uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, and I like every day I showed up with a smile on my face, and I knew that I had to work hard, not just work hard. Like I knew that I was not just on a pure soccer talent level as good as these other players, which is why they were better soccer players than me. And so I knew also from my time in high school that I had to work harder than them to just barely stay above water.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent more time in the gym, and I was like, if I can't be the best soccer player, then I'm going to be the fittest guy on the team, and I'm going to be like the guy who sets the standard for looking after your body and for like what it means to be a good teammate. So that was my attitude going into it, and it also like that helped me become a better soccer player. Like trying really hard made me a better soccer player. It never made me great, but after 1 year of being a team manager, the coaches said that I was just going to get moved into being a full on member of the team. Um, and yeah, that's I mean that's how it got started. And because I wasn't playing any of the games, the data aspect of this was that when we were going out to play a game, I wouldn't even dress. I would just wear, a Harvard soccer polo, and then I would go up in the press box instead of sit on the bench with everybody else with my computer and take stats on, passes completed and shots on target, shots off target, um, so that then we actually had numbers to look at after the game on top of the qualitative assessment that the coaches were they would write down notes, and then they would look at film and everything, but we would then start to complement that with data. Um, and it was a process. Like we had never, the program at Harvard had never really done that. I had never really done that. I just showed up saying, hey, like I think we can figure it out together. And so it was an iterative process. I remember the first time I like printed out an Excel spreadsheet with numbers and people's names as columns and the actions as rows. A bunch of people saw it and were like, just tossed it straight into the trash. Like which hurt because I knew some people were doing it because it was poor data visualization, and some people were doing it to piss me off.
Yeah.
But I took that. I chose to focus on the first part of that, which was like, okay, like if this isn't a good way to present information, then I'll do better. I'll figure out a better way for people to actually, even if they don't like me, still be able to find this information useful. Um, so yeah, that was how I got my foot in through the door, and then once I was in, they couldn't get rid of me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, very, very impressive. So on the data analytics side, um, I watched a video on YouTube about you actually had a name for the
Yeah.
data logging product.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd like to hear a little bit more about it, and then to your opinion on how effective you think it was.
Yeah.
Obviously, at first you said it wasn't well received, but I imagine that changed.
Yeah. So after the first year, and really the first and second years, where we were kind of making it up as we
Mhm.
went, we were using a software that was designed to cut film and tag film in a way that it was not its main function to tag the game live. Um, and it worked fine enough. But after a while, me and some of my classmates were like, well, we could make an app that does exactly what we need it to do and nothing else. And so there was a big cohort of us that took the intro computer science course the same year, or the same semester. And as our final project, me and two of my teammates said we're gonna make this app. One of them actually, who was also a walk on, had been a team manager, so he got the struggle of having to deal with the data collection and all that. And that honestly was one of the coolest things about being somewhere like Harvard, and generally just being in the university setting where you have people who are thinking about new approaches to problems, even if this is like this isn't curing cancer, but it's
Right.
a tiny problem that we had that was important to us, and that we were able to say we're going to invent something new to fix this
Right.
problem. And then we did it and we created a Mac application that then meant we didn't have to rely on this other thing that was being used not for its intended purpose. And it made it easier to onboard other people who then came after me as team managers, or the team data analysts, to be the ones in the press box and then type the stats out as they were happening, and then at the end of the game hit one button and make a automated visualization with charts that would be in everyone's inbox 45 minutes after the final whistle. So it went from a really laborious, we're using this other program, and then we have to download it, and then we have to pass it onto my computer, and then we have to put it in the right format so then we can make some charts that people are going to look at, to over and over iterating and making it smoother and faster, to the point where we'd get the live stats, press one button at the end of the game, and then everyone got the same information that we had already not perfected, but we had made much more digestible, straight into everyone's inbox so that people could see how their game performance had been compared to other people in their position, compared to themselves, going back during the season. Um, and yeah, that was a really fun project to work on.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this, I assume, was pre Y Scout, or did Harvard
Well,
just not have it?
we just didn't have that,
Yeah.
or so we didn't have it. We were right at the kind of when Instat
Yeah.
was starting to make inroads into college, and they would reach out and say, hey, like we're gonna offer to collect stats for your games remotely, and charge you thousands and thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
And really, what to some extent what event data collection, we can talk more about soccer data and where things stand. Event data collection in soccer is still at its core a manual
Yeah.
process. Maybe AI will help
Yeah.
change that a little bit. But we said, okay, like we already have people who are right here know our players better and are doing this for free with an app that they built.
And
So
the
like,
quality will probably be better because they're
yeah,
not just like whatever.
exactly. Every time we got an inbound offer to say, hey, like we're gonna start collecting your data on like a small screen remotely, we said thanks, we got it, we
Yeah,
got it handled here. Yeah,
awesome. So did the data analysis. You built your app with it was a teammate in the same position. You said.
it was a teammate who was also a team manager. He was a goalkeeper,
Okay.
walk-on goalkeeper, and we've stayed in touch. We've continued to do a lot of soccer data projects together. Um, but yeah, I think we even then had a future cohort of players who then took the intra-computer science course the following year,
Mm-hmm.
take the app and build on top of it as
Wow.
their final project. So it was a really, again, like very, very nerdy, very, very academic,
Yeah.
but just a really cool function of being soccer players at Harvard to be
Yeah.
able to do
No,
that.
it's what I would imagine
Yeah.
Harvard soccer players are.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Um, and tell me a little bit about the transition from manager. Obviously, you ended up being a captain.
Yeah.
Tell me about that transition, and specifically in your trial period, how were you received by the team? Was that
Yeah.
challenging? We talked about self belief
Yeah.
earlier. Was that something that was still a strong suit of yours?
Yeah, I definitely believed in myself. I was not well received by most of the team,
Interesting.
and that was mostly a function of my soccer ability. I think the people above me in the year, the sophomores, and juniors, and seniors, did not appreciate that I was showing up, no matter how hard I tried, no matter like that I had my best face on, and in some cases bringing down the quality of training. And yeah, they just like never really forgave me for it. I think as they started graduating, honestly, I don't think the culture on the team was super great. um, as they started graduating and then people started coming in below me, I think the younger teammates could look up to me and still understand my role, saying like, okay, well, this guy's not great at soccer, but he's been really great at being a mentor to me and like taking me under his wing, making sure that I feel at home and respected and comfortable and welcomed, and that I belong not just on the team but at Harvard with my classes. And I was a peer advisor when I was in college, which is, some people get training to be paired up with incoming freshmen to help them with course selection and how to deal with homesickness and that sort of stuff. So I was doing that already for a group of 8 assigned freshmen every year. So it was really easy to help my teammates who were coming in and thinking about some of the same things. Um, that's kind of what started to shift the tide. There were people who were able to look up to me as someone who really cared about the team, was a really good teammate, gave 110% in everything that I did, and that was something to aspire to, even if it didn't translate to being really good at kicking a soccer
Right.
ball. Um, and what really kind of cemented my leadership role on the team, was actually some off the field stuff, which I'm not sure if in your research this came up, but my junior year, the men's soccer team season was canceled because the administration found that our team had a like long running history of making what they call the scouting report of the incoming women players on the women's team that predated me, um, and that tradition had continued into the years where I was there, um, and so as punishment, and honestly rightly so, the school decided they were going to terminate our season. But what they didn't do was any sort of follow up about ensuring there was accountability and understanding about why that behavior was wrong. They basically said, "Oh yeah, just season's over. Come back next year, and we'll just pretend that this never happened."
Mm.
And that didn't sit right with me. I mean, one of my biggest regrets during that time was, even though I didn't directly participate in that process, that I also didn't stop it. But it left a really poor taste in my mouth that Harvard made this big deal about this being a like educational community, and that there was going to be no educational follow up in this particular case. Um, so me and some of my teammates kind of took it upon ourselves to say, well, if Harvard isn't going to, or the Harvard Athletic Department specifically, isn't going to require us to do any sort of soul searching on this, then I think we need to, out of our own initiative, really dig into like why was this happening? Why did people think it was okay to do this? Um, so we sought out a partnership with the Harvard Office for Sexual Assault Prevention, and then did a series, like a year and a half or 2 year long workshop series to talk about things like gender roles and power dynamics, and really kind of just think about everyone's own perspective and upbringing, and like how we got to the point where when one of the seniors told some of the freshmen, hey, you guys should like write this document and it's going to be funny, they were like, oh yeah, we should totally do that. So that, like, being the person to kind of steer the team through that time, which was not, yeah, it wasn't a fun time, um, was what really kind of cemented my place as a leader. Um, and again, going back to like how I see soccer as both a really fun game that I enjoy to play and watch, but also a catalyst for social change. Like that, that's where I thrive, and so being able to like help my teammates become slightly better humans through this experience, which like again, wish that it hadn't come to that, um, is one of the prouder things that I did during my time in college. Um, so after that is when the team voted to make me captain for the first time, and that rubbed the older people who were already gone so the wrong way that they actually basically revolted and
So this
said,
was your junior year, so it was the senior, some of the seniors.
yeah. So some of the seniors who this was after our season had been canceled, and so we're talking like
You got
junior
elected
spring,
during. Okay, yeah.
yeah. And the seniors who were like no longer part of the team found that so morally outrageous, which they didn't find the documents they were asking the freshmen to prepare morally outrageous. They found the fact that someone who wasn't that good at soccer would be elected captain by the rest of the team morally outrageous. Um, that they raised such a stink about it, and there was like a group of people in the team who felt similarly,
Yeah.
in the minority, but enough that it was kind of being a big deterrent to our ability to move forward as a team. So after being voted captain the first time, I actually like got the team back together and said, "Hey, you know what? Like, if this is going to cause this many issues, then just like forget it ever happened. Like, I'm not doing this for this reason. So just we'll go back to Nathan's not a captain. That vote never happened, and we'll go into next season and just like I do what I do because I care about this team and because I care about pushing myself to be better and pushing other people to be better, and that makes some people uncomfortable, and that's okay. Um, so yeah, I was captain for 7 days in my
Wow.
junior year, um, and yeah, then the next year I had actually taken some time off my sophomore fall so that I could play a super senior season.
Got it.
So even though I had been like transitioned away from being a team manager, I was not going to get playing time as a sophomore, and so I kind of knew that in advance, and I thought I'd have a better shot.
Did you redshirt or you weren't with the team?
I wasn't with the team. I took a semester off.
Got it.
Well, the redshirting in the Ivy League is kind of weird because you can't, like, you literally cannot register for more than 8 semesters as a student. You can't just like extend your time here. So you have to, if you're gonna have an extra semester at some point, you have to take a semester off somewhere. So I just didn't. I did preseason with the team. Then I declined to register as a student for the fall of my sophomore year. So then it wasn't until a year later when we had like the annual captain elections again that then in that moment was elected for my final season as captain with a group of teammates, not all of whom voted for me or were necessarily thrilled about it, but who understood that what I brought to the team in a leadership role was important enough to be recognized that way. Um, so yeah, that's how it came about.
Wow. I hadn't
Yeah,
come across that in my research, honestly. So that's really
yeah,
interesting to hear about. But it seems like you were on the right side of things. Um,
yeah. I mean, I think a lot about what happened. Honestly, is like my best friends, my bestest friends on campus were my classmates on the women's team,
mhm.
um, and I really felt like I let them down by letting that happen. Um, but given that it had happened, I felt that was still my job to try to make the most out of that situation after the fact.
And so you were doing some educational things with a couple of your teammates, and were you guys also training as well, or was it just you weren't allowed to do any sort of?
No, no, we were training. We were doing the whole like we were back to normal as far as the athletic department was concerned.
But
The
that they
following
canceled the
season.
fall.
They canceled the fall when there was one game left in our season.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay, got it.
So um, yeah, and honestly, I mean, like the work that we did with the Office of Sexual Assault Prevention was really good. Like it was really high quality, and a lot of my teammates like really opened up and I think learned things about themselves that they did not expect to. To the point where then I interned for the Office of Sexual Assault Prevention one of my summers after that, and helped turn what had been our series of workshops into an actual curriculum that could be used proactively for other varsity sports and not after
Yeah,
they've gotten in trouble for something bad. Um, so yeah, at least that little piece of good came out of that. Um, and yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud of the work that we did after the fact.
amazing. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So that explains your kind of ascent into captaincy, which is interesting.
Yeah.
In your captaincy, what did you learn about leadership?
Well, you can't please everyone,
Yeah,
and I mean I learned that even before, but it was really a good opportunity for me to model a different kind of leadership. Again, I think a lot of people in sports, definitely a lot of my teammates, just kind of associated being the best at the sport with just that person is the captain and like that you don't have to think
right.
about it too much. Um, and so for me to say, hey, again, this is all in the context of playing for a university team or an educational environment where we're all like young adults trying to figure life out. Um, Being able to model a different type of leadership that is not just about being good at your sport and is more holistic around, are you a good teammate? Like, do you push yourself? Do you push other people? Like, are you setting the standard for what you want other people to be doing? Um, it was a delicate balance. I was learning a lot about myself and interpersonal relationships and a lot of the problems, interpersonal problems within the team that came to me because I was the captain. Um, but I think it was worthwhile to be in a position to, again, model and show other people what leadership can look like if you don't define it in a super narrow way. Um, I think throughout my entire 5 years, I played 90 minutes and they were not consecutive. I played like 10 minutes here, 14 minutes there, 20 minutes there. And I started two games, one out of my own merit and one because it was senior night. So it really decoupled the do you have to be good at soccer to be named
Right.
captain question. But even though I knew, or especially because I knew that my role on the team was not to be the star on the field, that I wasn't going to be supporting on the field, it allowed me to then like really commit to essentially being a part of the coaching staff. Um, and both I would go into a bunch of meetings with the coaches about what we're trying to get out of practice and designing the practice and going over the film and then being one of the go betweens between what the coaches were looking for and what the team needed to hear. And even during the games, I would sit down on the cooler. The coaches would say some things, but I was the one like just yelling like 90 minutes straight at the back line to make sure they're looking at each other, at people to switch the field or that sort of stuff. So people knew to expect that even though I couldn't be like, and I could be, I was just not good enough to be inside
Mm-hmm.
the lines, that I was still going to be doing everything I could to make us 1% better or give us a 1% higher chance of winning a game. So I'd like to think that that was um, that I did a good job in modeling that. I've heard a lot of my teammates come back after the fact, especially when they've had years to think about it, and come back and thank me for um, some of the things that I did. Not just for them, but that I did that maybe I didn't even notice, but that made a big impact or a big impression on them, and that's felt really touching. Um, so yeah, I think that's kind of how I saw my role.
I love it. Yeah, I love that mentality. I think that's incredible. I'd love to start to transition to talking about U.S. soccer.
Hmm.
Obviously, you had some roles in between there.
Yeah.
I know you were with Orlando, and
Hmm.
then you had great success with Gotham. So if you want to take us on that journey from Harvard to U.S. soccer,
Yeah.
uh, however
Well,
you'd like.
like I said, I mean, by the time that I had shown up, even in high school, I already knew I loved soccer. I wanted to work in soccer. I started taking French in high school because it was one of the FIFA languages. So I'd already been thinking about preparing for a career in the soccer world, which wasn't going to be on the field. Um, and so when I was here, and a lot of my classmates were off doing their consulting and their finance and their tech internships, I wasn't interested in that, but I also knew that I could just reach out to people and see what was out there. I reached out to Orlando because my coach, same coach, Bobby, who's my development academy coach, St. Stephen's coach, he then became the assistant coach at Orlando City. And so I called him up and I said, I'm coming with you. You know, clear your guest bedroom. And he put me in touch with the GM. And I told the GM, I said, hey, listen, here's what we're doing at the Harvard men's soccer program around data analytics. Are you guys doing anything like that? And he goes, no chance. So I said, okay, if you clear a desk for me this summer, I will come down and I will get us started on analytics. He said, great, welcome aboard. Um, so that was something that it wasn't a posted job. It was just me trying to finesse my way into my first soccer gig. I worked for the St. Kitts and Nevis senior men's national team in an operations role because I didn't even know the coach, but I knew he was Mexican, so I was able to ask people to get his contact. And I reached out and I said, hey, listen, like I'd love to work in international soccer at some point. What do you need? Like, can I help out somehow? And he said, yeah, whenever, even when we're the home team, the bus doesn't show up on time, and it's a really small federation, it's shoestring budget. I can basically only bring my coaching staff, and so that means my coaching staff is having to think half about the game and half about pumping up the balls and making sure the buses are on time and figuring out the flights. So if you can take all of that off our plate, so we can only focus on soccer, we'll take you anywhere. And so I got to go to places like Estonia, Armenia, Georgia, and you know Eastern Europe, St. Kitts, Aruba, um, and when we went to Andorra, tiny microstate in between France and Spain, St. Kitts became the first ever Caribbean country to beat a UEFA team in home soil, like UEFA soil.
Wow.
Yeah, you'll never sing that. Uh, so just, I mean, like, and I was still, 19, 20, just living my wildest dreams, being part of a professional soccer club here in the US, being part of a national team in CONCACAF that was traveling to Europe. Um, so by the time that I was graduating, I had already done a couple odd jobs in soccer and also focused a lot of my academic research and firepower on soccer questions, building my own analytics tracking app. I wrote a research paper based on the work that I had done for Orlando around salary efficiency in MLS. I wrote my statistics thesis on revamping the FIFA ranking into something that actually makes sense at the time. And I'm fairly confident this is still true. But at the time, it was the best ever FIFA ranking or rating system that had ever been designed. Um, so, and again, those are really cool opportunities opportunity and experience to be in an academic community to say, hey, like I care about this, I have this question, I'm just gonna go for it. And with some of my friends on the soccer team, on the women's team and the men's team, came together and said, we're gonna build the best ever FIFA ranking, and we did it. So I reached out to the person who had won the election for U.S. Soccer President in 2018 and said, hey, I would love to get some advice because I want to work in soccer. Here's my resume. I graduate in 6 months, but I don't really know what's next. Um, and he basically took one look at my resume and said, my advice is that you come to my personal assistant when you graduate. So that was, again, like a huge stroke of luck for sure. But I feel like it is the kind of luck that you make yourself. So I had, I reached out, I did a cold outreach with a strong resume that was strong because of a series of cold outreach that I had done previously to get experience and odd jobs here and there. So really, it was just cold outreach all the way down, and that stems from, I think, the same thing that you've been mentioning, which is self belief that if I'm given the opportunity to do a role, that I can do it really well. So I was at U.S. Soccer for just under 2 years as staff. I was assistant to two presidents because there was a presidential transition. Cindy Cohn was my second boss when she became the first woman president of U.S. Soccer. And man, that was a time to be at U.S. Soccer. President resigns, Cindy becomes president. It's also the week where COVID really hit the fan.
Oh, wow.
That's when like the all the rolling stay-at-home orders were starting. I think when we were drafting the previous president's resignation statement, you could see the CNN in the background with the like, oh, San Francisco orders everyone to stay at home. It's kind of very horror movie foreshadowing type situation. And we did not have a CEO because our CEO of 20 years had given the U.S. Soccer Board about 18 months heads up that he was going to retire. And the board in that time was not able to find a replacement.
Wow.
Which didn't seem like the end of the world until you had a new president and COVID hit. So then at that point, they hired someone pretty quickly. So you had a new CEO, new president in the middle of a pandemic. No one knows what's going on. Soccer has just completely stopped. And I'm just in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, being like, great. This is, I guess, like I'm the institutional knowledge now because the president is new and the CEO is new, and I've only been here for like a year and 3 months. So that was quite a time, and it, I mean, I loved the job. I got to travel across the country to watch soccer games, attend soccer events. I was in France when we won the Women's World Cup in 2019, went to every game, and really was kind of pinching myself at every turn, thinking like, how did I get so lucky to be part of all these moments I used to watch on TV? But it also kind of really takes it out of you. It's you're always on 100-hour weeks. There are so many things going on. If you're not working on one, you're working on a different one. And once Cindy had settled into her role back in 2020, the role is always difficult, but I think there was a marked difference between when she came on board and like 6 months later when she had started to feel more comfortable in it. We then like had won or settled more legal cases when she came. That was a top priority for her when she came in, was to like get out of all the legal messes. Then at that point I said, okay, I need to take a break, catch up on 2 years worth of sleep. And yeah, so I left US Soccer towards the end of 2020 and didn't do much of anything for a couple months, and I started getting back into some independent consulting, people who wanted to invest in soccer teams in the US and Europe. And I did that for a while until Gotham called in the summer of 2022 when they were the worst team in the league. And they basically called and said, hey, listen, we have an opening for our assistant GM role. And we're not really sure why, but your name came up and can you fix this? Um, and I said, okay, maybe. I don't know. Can anyone fix this? But it was another one of those moments where I hadn't thought it out. But the idea of going into the worst team in the league and the self belief that I had in my ability to turn things around really made it super, super exciting of a prospect. Um, so what I told him was, hey, listen, what I'm hearing is, you're bad on the field, which is very apparent, and you want to fix it. Um, if you bring me, we're going to be the first women's soccer team, definitely in the U.S., probably in the world, to really adopt Moneyball and data analytics as a core part of our sporting strategy. I don't know how much better that's going to make us, but if you're ready to roll the dice, then so am I. And kind of related to the sporting aspect, but thinking bigger picture, you want to make New York a hub and a destination in women's soccer, and winning is going to help a lot. But it's also going to help a lot to have someone who is multilingual, who's lived out of the US, and who gets the global soccer landscape. So I think those are the two things that I could bring that are unique to my unique skill set to this role. And I said, great, when can you start? And it was really like, they weren't kidding. I said, oh, well, like, when is the current person leaving? The person who was there before me got a job at the league office. And they were like, oh, she leaves next week. I'm like, ah, okay. So I jumped on a flight. I did not have an apartment or anything. It actually worked out really well that when I started, the team was on a very long road trip. We played away at Seattle, away at Houston, and we played at home in Philadelphia. Gotham
Okay.
did this thing where they would play one home game in Philly to try to tap into
Got it.
that
Okay.
market. And I was like, great, as long as I'm traveling with the team, I don't need an apartment.
Yeah.
So for 2 weeks, I was just on the road. That's kind of when I got started at Gotham. Um, and yeah, I mean, one of the things that I had said was, listen, if you had called me and you were a middle of the table team, said, hey, things are okay, we'd like to be better, I probably would have said no. But because you guys have hit rock bottom, I think there's more room here to actually be bold and ambitious, and we can't get any worse. And the ownership bought into that mindset where I said, if you're going to be second guessing what I'm saying, if you're going to be asking me to think around the edges, I'm doing fine. I don't have to take this job.
Right.
But they said, yeah, like you and Yael, who's the general manager, just have full control, full faith to be as crazy as you need to be to turn this around. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how like detailed you want to get into, but we started to use some of the stuff that I began thinking about when I was at Harvard, that then I started honing when I was at Orlando, that then I came back to Harvard and turned it into a much more rigorous analytical and academic framework to get to apply it, not just as someone thinking of this stuff, but someone in charge of building a first division professional roster and getting basically the final say on these decisions. Was really a dream come true. Things turned out really well, thankfully. We went from being the worst team in the league. We broke. I cannot stress how bad this team was. When I showed up, they had already begun what would become the longest losing streak in league history.
How many games?
11, I think. And so my whole first season, like towards the end of it, I had to
Losing,
wait.
not just not winning.
Losing. So
Yeah,
we
that's
lost.
crazy.
I think we lost my. They had already lost before I showed up. So that was one of the 11, and then I showed up, and then we lost the next 10 games in a row, and then we tied our final game of the season. So I had to wait 10 games to win 1 point.
So, did you start implementing your strategy as soon as you got there? And if so, were you like, uh-oh?
Yes and no. I mean, I showed up already like a good chunk of the way through the first transfer window, I think. In the summer, I started like August 1st or something like that. And so there was only so much that we could do, and really my first instinct was to say, we should not be making rush decisions in the next 3 weeks to like try to save the season. Like
Mhm.
that's not gonna pan out long term. We discussed some like really out there ideas about you know coaching changes or players we could bring in. But what I felt, especially having followed the league very closely for the last couple of years, was that a lot of the poor outcomes in the NWSL had been products of rush decisions. And so I said, actually, I think it's going to be better for us to start focusing on next year and having sound decision making processes for what next year is going to look like than to like try to scramble to make something happen now, because then we're going to have to be dealing with our poor decisions from today next year instead of starting from a clean slate. Um, so one of the very first things that happened while I was there is we let our coach go. Um, and Greg, like Scott Parkinson, great person. Um, Nothing negative to say about him, just the results weren't there. And this was like a little bit dark given the history of the NWSL. He was the first NWSL coach in 18 months to be let go purely on sporting grounds.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Um,
I know that's going to get into some other stuff we're going to talk about
yeah.
later.
Okay.
One
Okay.
quick
Yeah.
question I have. Um, so you said you weren't going to make any rash decisions, but you did let the coach go. What led to that
Yes.
decision versus, hey, let's give him a
Yeah.
year?
So we brought in then an interim coach who knew he was interim, and that was part of the deal.
Okay.
And we did not start contacting potential interim coaches until after we had informed Scott of the decision. Um, but once we found an interim who was like the former CONCACAF coach of the year, Hugh Menzies, who had coached the Jamaican women's team, who I knew because he used to be at St. Stephen's. And so
Wow.
one of my first like being on the job was us then scrambling to say, okay, we need to find an interim. And I said, oh, what if I could get the former CONCACAF coach of the year in like by Thursday? They're like, what? So Hugh graciously agreed to step in, knowing that he was going to be an interim, and that gave us the breathing room that he was going to manage like the end of the season, so that we could go do an actual long process to find the right person to lead the team on a permanent basis, instead of just rushing to like find a replacement that then we were going to have to fire 6 months later. So that was the like giving us the breathing room that we needed. Um, and yeah, and one of the best things that we did was hire Juan Carlos after that process, because he was a really really key piece and catalyst for turning stuff around on the field.
Wow. Okay. And can you talk about some of the data analysis you did? Obviously, you don't have to get into
Yeah,
specifics,
yeah.
but I assume it was a little bit more advanced than the hand data logging that you were doing first couple of years at
Yes,
Harvard.
but not as much as you would think. I mean, one of the biggest advantages was that no one else was doing any sort of data
Right.
analytics, and so the low hanging fruit had not been picked.
Okay.
So I brought on some of my friends that had worked on the Keep Track app with me here, who had worked on my statistics thesis on the FIFA ranking, to help do hourly contracted analytics work for the club that then would filter up to me, and I would use that as part of our holistic recruitment process. Um, but one of the best, most clear cut cases of Moneyball, and I've written about this in my Substack called Seeing the Present, is when we signed Yasmin Ryan. Um, Basically, what we did is we were going to overhaul the entire roster in the off season. And when you're looking for one piece to finish your roster, it's very easy to say, okay, well, like this is exactly the shape of the piece that we need. So you go out and you try to find that piece. When you don't have any pieces on the board, it's a little bit more daunting to even figure out where to start
Right.
putting things together. But I felt really strongly that our North Star should be building a team around chance creation, because there's a lot of randomness in soccer, and I did not want our KPIs to be anchored on things that are inherently random. So if we had said we're going to build a roster that's going to win the league, to win the league you need to make a lot of good decisions and have a ton of luck. And so now you're making a KPI outcome that is dependent on luck, and I think that's a bad way to evaluate
Not controllable.
decision making. Yeah. So winning the league, right, that's kind of random. In order to win the league, you need to win a lot of games. Winning games, also kind of random because you need to score goals. And goals, you guessed it, random. Um, so you need to abstract all the way out to chance creation to find a metric that is consistent year over year, player across players, and that is more predictable than anything that comes after that. So I said, okay, we're going to try to build our roster around maximizing chance creation and minimizing, how many chances you give up. And then you just have to hope that if you do that right, the chances lead to goals, and the goals lead to wins, and the wins lead to trophies. Um, and so one of the first things that I did was we plotted. No advanced analytics. We plotted a chart that had on the x-axis the number of touches in the final third per 100 touches.
Okay.
And on the y-axis, the number of chances created per 100 touches.
Is that like a shot assist? What
Um,
constitutes
it's
chance created?
whatever Opta was using as its measure.
Okay.
Yeah. And so obviously the chances created per 100 touches is very self-explanatory. We literally just said who creates the most chances. And the x-axis was to normalize. We didn't want to penalize players, especially after watching Gotham play. We didn't want to penalize good players on bad teams. So if your team never gets the ball up the field, then you look at the chances you created per 90 minutes. You're not going to create any chances because the team didn't even get you the ball to try to do something. But if you say, okay, once the ball is in the final third, then how many touches, or how many chances you're creating per 100 touches, then it kind of levels it out. Mm-hmm. And so at the top right corner, and there's visuals of this in my Substack. At the top right corner, there was a cluster of players who were the league's best chance creators, including Megan Rapinoe, Mallory Pugh, Ashley Sanchez, Morgan Weaver, I think, from the Portland Thorns. So all players, Morgan Weaver maybe like bubble, but she played for the Thorns, who were about to be the champions. The other three, like consensus best in class, national team call ups, huge salaries, and then there was one more player who was in her second year in the league, who was getting maybe 20 minutes off the bench for Portland every game, Yasmin Ryan. And we're like, okay, if she's posting the same numbers as Ashley Sanchez, Megan Rapinoe, and Mallory Pugh on a normalized basis, but she's only getting 20 minutes off the bench at Portland, like, we have found our chance creator.
How much did you think about those numbers in context? Where obviously, or maybe she's getting 20 minutes when it's 3-0, 5-0. They're only playing weak teams, and she's just able to, perform. So how much did you think about it in context?
So, well, then this is one step of the process, right? So once that jumped out like a freaking 5-alarm fire, then the coaches need to look at her, the scouts need to look at her, and then we need to assess the whole context. But we really could not figure out why Portland was not giving her more time. And of course, after we saw that, Portland started to give her more time. So we started to see the price go up in real time. And then, do you know who created both chances in the NWSL championship that the Portland Thorns won?
Assume it was her.
It was Yasmin Ryan. And so we, Yael and I were watching the championship in DC, and both of us were like, so it took a lot of finagling to get her on our roster, because once we started asking too, Portland was like, wait a second, why do they want this player? And it involved a multilateral deal where they wouldn't trade her to us, so we went and we told Angel City that if they could get us Yasmin Ryan, then we would give them the number 1 pick in the draft, and it was a whole situation. But we got her, and she then started over 3/4 of the game for us when we won the league, and then she got a call up to the U.S. Women's National Team. Wow. So that was like a really, literally textbook case of no advanced analytics, just the thought process of, okay, well, we want to invest in chance creators. We can figure out who the best chance creators are, and the metrics that we chose validated themselves because when the chart came out, it had the consensus best chance creators already labeled as the best chance creators. And then it had one more player who was not a big name, who was getting a couple of minutes off the bench. It was in her sophomore season. So then we said, okay, if we want to get those numbers for a cheaper price, then that's who we go for. Yeah, I mean, I think sometime earlier this season, she was the she's now at Houston. She was the expected assists leader in the league for a little while. I haven't checked on that again, but just really, really validated the theory that we could make really smart sporting decisions
Yeah.
by being analytics first.
I love that. Like, first thing, using data as a filter. You can't scout 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So you narrow down to your 5 and then use the eye test. So I love that. That's exactly how I think about data in soccer. And then I really like how you approached building the team. Like, what's your desired outcome? So everyone has a desired outcome, but you can't typically control it. You can influence it. So what's the thing that you can control that influences it?
Yeah.
And you set that, and that was chance creation. And then what do we have to do every single day to do that? So I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, then you know what happened when we started the season? We were creating a ton of chances.
We were converting.
And we were not scoring. So we literally posted games that were like 30 shots, 1 goal or 0 goals.
Wow.
And I don't know, for viewers at home, the like easiest heuristic for shots on target to goals is like every 2.5 to 3 shots are shots on target, and every 2.5 to 3 shots on target are goals. So really, 30 shots should be translating to 3 goals. And we were creating chances. We did a great job of building a roster that could create chances. We just could not finish them. But then that made it really easy in the summer window to say, okay, like now we have most of the pieces, and we have a hole that looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
Now we go find that player to fill that hole, and that was Esther Gonzalez from the Spanish national team, who we signed before the World Cup. So we signed her before she was a world champion, and then announced her after she was a world champion. So it made us look really good. But her finishing rate, she was the highest goal scorer in Real Madrid's short women's history. Her finishing rate was off the charts. I mean, she's really good at a lot of things, but her like shots on target conversions off the charts. We're already generating all these chances. We just need someone to tap them in.
Are you talking about shots on target out of shots, or goals out of shots on target?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about was it? How many shots she took? What was she?
I can't remember the number, but I can remember her radar chart, and it was basically
like way more.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a full circle. People who know radar charts will know what I'm talking about. And then Esther Gonzalez scored the game winner for us in the NWSL Championship later that year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, I appreciate you sharing some details on how you moneyballed it. And so this leads us, along with some other experiences, into some of your experiences with U.S. soccer, and I'd love to talk about your campaign.
Yes.
Because I think that's incredible. So you stopped at every single state. You can fill in
Yeah.
before there if you'd like, but I'd really like to talk about that.
Yeah. And how are we doing on time? I don't know if we're gonna get.
I'm good on time. So whatever you.
What time is it?
It is 3:38.
Okay.
Okay. So whenever.
Yeah. So I said yes to the job at Gotham, but as much as I enjoyed the life at a professional club where there was a lot of incentive on like high performing athletic environment and winning and like building a dynasty to win on Saturday and win the next Saturday and win a Saturday a year from now and 2 years from now. What really, really drives me is this idea of using soccer as a tool for positive social change. And I think that happens at a higher organizational level. Like clubs are focused on winning and building goodwill within their communities, which is really important. But at U.S. Soccer, we're thinking about the millions of kids who play soccer and how is soccer changing and impacting their lives. And I felt like from my time at U.S. Soccer that I wanted to go back there and be part of that mission again. So when there was an open election for the vice president role, which is, for people who are not familiar with U.S. soccer governance, I can't blame anyone for not being familiar with that. U.S. Soccer is a 501c3 nonprofit. It has a board of directors, like every 501c3 nonprofit, and two of the positions, the president and the vice president, are elected by the entire U.S. soccer membership. The rest of the positions are either independent directors who come in with financial, legal expertise, but not a soccer background, or people who are elected to represent a specific corner of the soccer ecosystem, like the athletes or the professional leagues or the adult amateur landscape or the youth landscape. So I felt like, because I didn't come from, I didn't play for the national teams, which I would have liked to, and I'm not, I'm not an owner, I'm not a league operator. I did work for a club, but that was more of a stop on my journey. I did play youth soccer, but I don't run a youth soccer organization. And same thing, like I still play soccer and I consider myself an adult soccer player, but I don't run an adult soccer league or organization. That the place where I could make an impact was this like cross council position in the vice president role, which again, it's the vice chair of the board of directors. It's a volunteer, unpaid, part-time, honorary role on the board. But so at some point during this adventure with Gotham, I said, hey, listen, like I'm going to do my job really, really well up until my very last day that I'm here. But long term, I think I want to go back into soccer governance and then federation level stuff. So while we were on this incredible fairy tale run from being the worst team in the league to winning the whole thing, I also started to campaign for the position. So U.S. Soccer's membership, U.S. Soccer is a membership-based organization. We have 4 major categories of membership that I just touched on. By federal law, first, every single Olympic sport organization, so U.S. Soccer, U.S. Rugby, U.S. Swimming, has to give 33% of its voting power to current and recent national team athletes. U.S. Soccer has a ton of national teams. Actually, I think most people think of the men's and the women's senior teams they see on TV, but we have a bunch of youth national teams, and we have a lot of extended national teams and disability national teams. So we have futsal, men's and women's. We have beach, men's and women's. In our disability categories, we have cerebral palsy, men's and women's. We have deaf, men's and women's, and we even have a co-ed power chair soccer national team. So those are the motorized chairs that are played on hard court like basketball. So members of those national teams elect a representative council that then collectively has 33% of the vote in all U.S. soccer matters, including approving budgets, changing bylaws, electing the president, the vice president. So athletes are one of the 4 major membership categories. Professional leagues, so MLS, USL, NWSL, NISA back in the day, and still NASL, as long as litigation is pending, collectively control 20% of the vote. And then the 2 other major categories, which were, I think, they're really fun, are the youth council and the adult council, which by and large are organized by state. So there is a Massachusetts Youth Soccer Association and there's a Massachusetts Adult Soccer Association. So adult is, people who play Sunday leagues and, pub leagues and all that. And those state organizations have a portion of their council vote that correlates to the number of registered soccer players that they have. So it's organized by states, it's weighted by population effectively, soccer population. So it's a little bit like the electoral college, 2 overlapping electoral colleges on the youth side and the adult side. There are other organizations. U.S. Club Soccer registers a lot of youth soccer players, AYSO. Those are not organized by state. But the easiest way to visualize how this works is There's an electoral college for youth soccer. There's an electoral college for adult soccer. And then there is the professional leagues and the athletes who, as individuals, have a lot of say. Um, and one thing that I have felt is really important in how I approach basically anything that I do is making sure that people whose like when my decisions or an organization's decisions impact people, that those people should have a say or that they should feel like their voice matters in the process. It doesn't mean that they get to overrule or they get to say, oh, well, I want it this way, so everyone else needs to do it my way. But that they at least have a connection to the organization in a way that makes them believe that when we are making decisions, it is with their best interests in mind, or that at least we have considered um, all the alternatives and that we believe that we're acting in the best interest of the Federation. So even if they disagree, they still respect that. So in order to do that and to communicate that, and also because I wasn't coming from one of the councils, which is usually how things work, is the councils will kind of put someone forward and say, well, you're our person, so we will support you. I was starting from zero. So I try to make my biggest liability into my strongest asset by saying, hey, if I'm going to have to work for every single vote, like I'm not starting with anything here, then the way to do that is I'm going to go talk to everyone. And when I talk to everyone, once I'm done with that, I will be the only person who has ever done that, who has ever been crazy enough to go around and actually talk to everyone, and not just actually not even talk to everyone, but listen
Right.
to everyone. Um, so in my thought process, I didn't know that I was going to win. When I started thinking about this, a lot of people told me I was crazy. Um, so given that I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, one of the things that I wanted to make sure was true before deciding to pull the trigger was, do I have a chance, right? If I have zero chance, then I'm not gonna do it. Um, it could be a 1% chance or a 50% chance or whatever, but I need to know that there's at least a possibility that when it's all said and done, that this is successful. Two, will it have been worth it, even if it's not successful, right? Like I had a chance, I didn't win, it happens, so it goes. But will it still have been worth it? Like, can I use this process to share ideas about soccer that I think are important to bring people together in ways that I think will be useful, so that even if I don't win, it will still have been a net positive contribution to the soccer ecosystem. And three, is it going to be fun? Because if this is going to be a drag, then I don't think it is worth it for me. Um, so one of the ways in which I kind of rolled all that together was I'm gonna visit every single state, and that will make it really fun because I love thinking of big problems in small steps like that, and I love traveling, and it's kind of a bucket list item to visit every state. Um, I think by doing that, I will communicate and demonstrate a different vision for the type of leadership that can exist in U.S. soccer, which is very grassroots driven, down to earth, willing to listen, which was a complaint that was not the case a couple of when I was working at U.S. Soccer originally. Has gotten much better with Cindy, our president, and JT, our CEO. Um, and I think what I thought was going to give me the best chance of winning was to meet as many people face to face and hear what their concerns are, share what my thoughts are, answer any questions, and just demonstrate that I really, really care about this. Um, so off I went. I was trying to build a championship winning team and manage a championship winning roster, and also trying to visit every single state in the country within a couple month time span. So it was quite the task to be able to like sneak away when we had our off day for Gotham at training, or when we traveled with the team. Then sometimes it was easy to invite, we would play the Thorns, and then I
Right.
could invite the Oregon youth soccer people, the Oregon adult soccer people for a coffee at the hotel before the game, and meet them that way. Um, but yeah, I mean, I heard a lot of people say, like, why are you working this hard? If this it's an unpaid position, the VP actually doesn't even have that much power. So like, why would you work so hard for something like this? And I don't know, it was hard to communicate to people that I work hard when I do things. I don't do things half-assed, and if they don't see things that way, then I don't think that I can convince them that that's just a mentality that you can have. But I take a lot of pride in what I do, and yeah, I mean, it really meant a lot to people. I was in Montana, I was in West Virginia, I was everywhere. And the people who I talked to felt really, really touched by the fact that I made my way to go not just listen to what they had to say, but actually see with my own eyes some of the stuff that they're seeing, like what field complexes do they play in. This field complex was flooded, and look at how it looks now. So we need to find another place. And it's one thing to hear that, and it's another one to see it with your own eyes. Um, so I think that, like I said, helped turn my biggest liability, which is I didn't have a natural constituency that was supporting me from the jump, into my strongest strength, which is, well, if no one is supporting me, I need to make a play for every single vote and not take anything for granted. Um, and not only, I think that actually kind of helped some state, like at least one state, who was a bigger state, said, "Hey, listen, like I appreciate that you're here with me right now, but and like anyone who's running and is doing it in a serious way would be here because we're a state that has a lot of votes. I'm actually more impressed that you went to Montana, right? Like I'm more likely to vote for you because you went to Montana,
Right.
because that tells me you actually mean it, like you're genuine about how much you care about listening to the members. And so again, like I appreciate that you're here, but it was more important to me to hear that you went to Montana, you know? Um, so and in the process, like we have a massive, massive country that is also really beautiful. I mean, we have everything you can think of in this country, from like palm trees to mountains and rivers and deserts, and to get to see it with my own eyes for this like sake of soccer, right? Like I was on a mission because I care about making soccer better and making soccer grow. That might be a good place to transition, and like maybe and on that note, um, to like see the whole country and how people around it also love soccer and how soccer can bring people together was really inspirational to me as I was running. And one small quirk about how the Electoral College is organized is that there's actually 55 states in U.S. soccer geography, and it's not the territories, because Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa actually are different categories as independent countries by FIFA. So Puerto Rico has its own federation
Mm-hmm.
national team. USVI has its own federation national team. So where the extra states come from is there are states that are so big, like Texas, California, New York, and Pennsylvania, that they're split into. So there's a North Texas and a South Texas. There's a Eastern New York and a Western New York. And from a governance standpoint, they're two different states. There's obviously a lot of can be collaboration and everything, but they just count as separate states. Ohio is the one odd duck where it used to be north and south in the youth and the adult. The youth merged a couple years ago.
Okay.
So on the youth side, there is a single unified Ohio. On the adult side, they have not merged. So there is 54 youth states and 55 adult states. I was like, I'm gonna go to every single one. So my visits to Ohio included both a trip to Cincinnati and a trip to Cleveland,
Okay.
so that I could get both Ohio North and Ohio South. Yeah, I mean, if you have more questions about that, I'm happy to.
Yeah. Well, before I do
Yeah,
want to talk about growing the game.
yeah.
Um, I did want to just hear a quick piece on what you thought of Vermont, or if there are any
Yes, yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
interesting,
Yes,
maybe what the best stop was, but then obviously
yes,
specifically I'm interested in Vermont.
yeah. I don't think I can do a best stop. One of the ways that I've been answering this question is, I think the city that exceeded expectations the most
Okay.
was San Diego,
Mm.
and I think part of it was that I found myself there more often than I anticipated. The U.S. Soccer annual general meeting the year before I decided to run was actually in San Diego, and so I went, and I was like, wow, this city's nice. And then I was back when we played with Gotham San Diego in the regular season. I was like, oh, I kind of know the city now, and like I know what's cool about it. I'd go out for runs and all that. Then the final was in the NWSL final was in San Diego. So I was like, yeah, especially after going, I was like, yeah, this place rocks. So I really, really enjoyed my time in San Diego. I think it's highly underrated as an American city. And what was the other question?
What you thought of
Oh,
Vermont?
what I thought of Vermont. Okay, so my stop in Vermont was a trip to Virtue Field
Yep.
to watch the Vermont Green in action. And I mean, I'd been. This is part of why this was such a fun project. Is I I'm kind of a soccer sicko in every sense of the word, where I follow some of the non-professional stuff and what's going on down there. I think some of the coolest stories in American soccer are happening at that level, like the pre-professional. Vermont, I think, being like really, really high
Ballard
on that. Yeah,
played
Ballard FC
played in the final.
I know they just played in the final, and it was really great to see two clubs that I think are doing everything right off the field, like building community, being mission driven, and using the power of soccer to make their communities better. Also, be rewarded with success on the field. Like I think that is really peak performance as a soccer organization. So I went to my first Vermont Green match, and it was probably one of the top 5 soccer viewing experiences in my life, maybe top 10. But I mean, like, and I'm talking, I've been to Champions League finals, I've been to World Cup finals, and showing up, great, but people are strolling up in their bikes because they get a discount for something if you roll up in a bike. Very Vermont, free Ben and Jerry's, like what? And I don't know. I mean, just the vibe you've been obviously. The vibe is incredible. I think a lot of the vibe in soccer games actually centers around good design and good branding. And obviously Vermont has the best in the biz because you had Matt Wolf, who is the best in the biz at designing crests, say, I'm going to launch a club with my friends and it's going to have sick branding. So I have 2 Vermont jerseys. I have so many jerseys from so many teams that I really, really try to stick to not buying multiple jerseys from the same team. And they just keep hitting bangers. Like I can't help myself.
Especially when you have the Ben and Jerry's branding on there.
Yeah,
for the training kits.
I don't have a training. I went on my run this morning with the cream colored green collar one, and then I have the like the green with flowers on it. And I stayed behind. I talked to Sam Glickman, who's part of the ownership.
Yeah, one of the founding
leadership. Yeah, one of the founding team. In going to the game and letting him know that I was going to be there, and stayed back with him and all the volunteers to pick up the trash, and it really was just such a good community outing. Like you can tell that people really care about Vermont when they're there, and that they demonstrate their love for Vermont as a community in Burlington through their love for the team. And again, I think that is really what every single soccer team can aspire to, whether you're first division or you're fourth division. Technically, we don't sanction fourth division, so it's just pre-professional.
Right.
But yeah, and I got to go back for their first ever U.S. Open Cup game against Lexington last year, which was the first ever.
That was a wild game.
It was a wild game, and it was
like
the
5-3 or something.
It was 4-3. It was the first ever U.S. Open Cup match in Vermont.
Yeah.
And they were up 2-0.
I think it might have been the first ever professional sporting event.
Maybe. Well, I guess of any sport.
Yeah, really.
And they were up 2-0 against a professional team within 10 minutes, 2 identical corners, like back, corner of the back post, headed right in. And I actually, in the players' eyes and the coach's eyes, I saw the same expression that I saw in my coach Bobby Murphy when we were up 2-0 against FC Dallas.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, just like we planned it.
If I can say one thing, it was, they weren't surprised. I honestly, I actually was training with them.
Yeah.
I sustained an injury in my first training with them leading into that Open
tough.
Cup. But in the film run before, we're watching Lexington, and Vermont Green attracts unbelievable talent, and I thought it was clear, they don't maybe have the infrastructure, but I think they were the better team.
Yeah. And belief goes such a long way. Like if you're stepping onto that field thinking we're gonna win this game, that actually goes such a long way.
Yeah.
So I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Vermont
Oh
Green
yeah.
on their USL League Two
Yeah.
championship. I was very very excited for them. Yeah.
They're a great organization.
Yeah.
Um, time. It's about 4.
Yeah. Let's close out with the if you want to do growing the game.
Yeah, let me just think. I do want to talk about that. I'm just trying to think if there's another one. Blue Bonnet. Um, yeah, let's do that question.
Okay.
So, one thing I've been wondering about a lot, I know I talked to you about this
Yeah.
before. Obviously, you were campaigning on you wanted to grow the game.
Yeah.
And something I think about sometimes is why do we want to grow the game?
Yeah.
You hear leaders in other sports talk about, oh, we need to grow the game. We need to, um, we need to expand. I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
you know, in the micro, I see why that's advantageous to you in the soccer world. More money coming in, more
Yeah.
people, more eyes. Is it zero sum? Is that taking away from other sports? Like, why do we really want to grow the game?
Yeah. I don't think it's zero sum. But I'll answer the other question, which is why do we want to grow the game? Soccer has really opened every single door for me, and it's changed my life for the better. I think I'm living an incredible version of the American dream, having grown up in Mexico and then used soccer or leveraged soccer to have a life and a career in the U.S. And so what I know is how soccer has shaped my life. And again, it's not just about the games and the X's and O's, but more about how it teaches us to work together and work really hard and be determined to reach your goals, even if they're difficult. And not everyone can win. So, like, how do you deal with setbacks and getting back up? So, when I think about the power that U.S. soccer has to make the world or the country a better place, we have 4 million ish, registered soccer players who are part of U.S. soccer, and there's many more than that that are not officially registered through any of our members or partners. Um, if we can make sure that all of those kids are learning these values and skills, that's going to make them better people. And sure, like 0.001% of them will also end up on the national team or be able to make a living out of playing soccer. And that is great. Like, I love that for them. But for the 99.99% that don't, what I want is for soccer to be able to like shape their lives for the better as people, not just as players. Um, I know that other sports do that. What I know is what soccer has done
Right.
for me. So I want other people to be able to experience it. And the other piece that I think soccer does have an advantage over other sports is that soccer is really a global language. And part of why soccer opened doors for me in a different country is because of that. And so, especially in a moment where a lot of the tendencies in politics around the world has been to close ourselves off from the rest of the world, having soccer be a force for good that can bridge differences across nationalities and ethnicities and oceans, um, I think is just a unqualified good thing. So I would like for the U.S. to be a leader in the global soccer ecosystem because I think we can bring a lot of good to the world through soccer. And in order to do that, we have to be a soccer country, like really be a player in the global landscape. I think we're well on our way. I think we are in a lot of ways a soccer country. On the women's side, we're like the undisputed historical leader in
Right.
women's soccer. We just broke the record yesterday, 2 days ago, for attendance at an NWSL match. 40,000 people. Oracle Park in San Francisco, Dewan's Bay FC against Chicago. So like we're the leaders in that. We're the leaders in a lot of ways on like analytics, maybe not necessarily in soccer, but just analytics in sports in the U.S. Uh, and things like equal pay, right? Like the way that U.S. soccer arrived at an equal pay agreement was not an easy road. And do I wish it hadn't come to litigation? Sure, but that's what it took. And after having gone through that process, can we help other countries skip all that and just get straight to the point? Maybe. So I think there's a lot of good that can come from soccer as a vehicle for social change, not just in the US, but in the world, and in our ability to do that and leverage soccer for good to some extent will be a function of how much we're able to grow soccer here in the US.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you so much. Can I squeak one last question in?
Maybe. Sure. And I think we can keep talking. I really I need to go to Hefes to eat because I haven't eaten in a while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it
Yeah.
would be a quick one,
Yeah, sure.
I think. So you do a lot of things.
Yeah.
You have Bluebonnet,
Yeah.
company you started. Obviously, vice president of U.S. Soccer. You have
Mhm.
several newsletters.
Yeah.
You're starting law school now.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of things. How do you do them all? This is just a personal thing for
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
because I look at your resume, I'm like, wow, a lot of things, good timing.
Good.
A lot of the things that I read,
Yeah.
about entrepreneurship, other things, is
Yeah.
about how you need to have singular focus.
Yeah.
But clearly, you're doing multiple things at a high level. How do you do it? If you can answer that quickly.
Yeah. Because I love them. I mean, I think I squeeze more hours out of my day because I just really am very lucky to love what I do. And I don't know, I mean, like people ask me about work-life balance, and I think work-life balance is a really important thing. But if I had more hours in the day, I would do more of what I do for work. Like what I do for work is what I love, and so it just doesn't feel like work, and it doesn't feel that hard to spend a lot of time on it. Yeah, I mean, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I get to go around to soccer games and soccer events and represent U.S. soccer at a lot of them, and I would have killed for that job. And it's not a job because it doesn't pay, but I would have killed for that when I was a kid, and so I'm really lucky that I get to do that. Also, I mean, I have a ton of support, but the people who do the work at U.S. Soccer are the staff. Like I play like teeny tiny role as one of almost 2 dozen board members. People at Bluebonnet, like we have had really good staff over the last couple of years who are the ones actually like pushing things forward and making things happen day to day. So there's nothing that I've done that I've done by myself. And this again, really important to learn about teamwork through soccer because that's really what it takes to be successful on so many fronts is to have like really good teams of people working on that with you.
Amazing. Thank you
Yeah.
for being so generous with your
Yeah.
time,
No, you're
allowing me to
welcome. Yeah.
sneak in
Yeah.
some more questions. Um, Nathan Goldberg, thank you so much.
Yeah. My pleasure.
Appreciate it. That was great.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
I'm
was
glad.
awesome.
Yeah. I hope after 1 year of trying to figure it out that this
Well, no,
was
I'm
what you're
so
looking for.
happy we made it happen.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting up with my pestering.
No,
Um,
no, this was good.